Hello, everybody, and welcome to History/Law Bite number 35, dated September the 7th, 2020. I'm Walter, your mobile historian and blue-collar scholar. This History/Law Bite is entitled The Ninth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Now, I am going to go out on a limb here and say that while most of you have probably heard of the Ninth Amendment, heard of it, you probably don't exactly know what it does or what purpose it serves. And let's face it, it isn't anywhere near, not even on its best day, as famous as certain other parts of the Bill of Rights, such as the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, or Eighth Amendments, And I guess that's perhaps a good thing because, unlike those other amendments, it doesn't do what they do, The Ninth Amendment, allow me to read it to you first, is a rule on how to interpret the Constitution. Unlike its counterparts, Amendments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, the Ninth Amendment does not confer any substantive rights to you, or protect any substantive rights clearly enumerated, like in those other amendments. So the Ninth Amendment says that the enumeration of certain rights in the Constitution shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. I'll read that one more time. The enumeration of certain rights in the Constitution shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Now, you might be saying, Walt, what on goodness earth does that mean? Yeah, it's not exactly the clearest statement if you're not familiar with reading 18th century sentence structure in English, period. Translated into modern language, that statement means, in sum, the existing Bill of Rights in the Constitution, these listed rights in the Constitution, cannot be used as a pretext for denying other rights that are not listed that the people have, Unless such denial is based upon an enumerated power that the federal government has, If that got past you too fast, I'll say it again. That statement simply means that the existing Bill of Rights in the Constitution doesn't, by implication, enlarge the power of the federal government to invade other rights that are not listed here, that the people do retain, So that's what I mean when I say that the Ninth Amendment is not a source of rights. You don't say, I have a Ninth Amendment right to smoke cigarettes, or I have a Ninth Amendment right, to walk around in flip-flops in the wintertime. Yes, you may do both of those things, of course, but those things may indeed be subject to certain restrictions, especially smoking cigarettes indoors. My point, in sum, is that although we do have the right to smoke cigarettes or wear flip-flops, those rights are not mentioned in the Constitution. And so the Ninth Amendment basically says the government can't deny me the ability to do those things arbitrarily, just because they're not listed in the Constitution, unless that denial is based on some other enumerated governmental power, The Ninth Amendment came about during the debates over the ratification of the Constitution in 1787 and 1788, The Federalists were against a Bill of Rights, and the Anti-Federalists wanted one. The Federalists were against a Bill of Rights because they felt largely it was unnecessary, as the federal government already had clearly enumerated authority. There was no need to add a specific list of rights, for things they weren't allowed to bother, The Anti-Federalists argued that, yeah, okay, apparently you guys haven't had much experience with government. Governments trample over rights all the time, even if they are listed. It seems like the Anti-Federalists have been vindicated. Our rights indeed have been trampled upon, even though they are listed. And it takes a vigilant citizenry to preserve them. Nevertheless, the Ninth Amendment, okay, was added, to placate those who felt that adding a Bill of Rights would automatically enlarge the federal government's power and authority. By adding a Bill of Rights, okay, those against one, like I said, they felt that with these rights listed here, that would enlarge the power of the federal government to invade everything and its great-grandmother that wasn't listed here, okay? And the Ninth Amendment clearly says, no, you can't, okay? You can't say that just because these rights are listed in the Constitution, I can invade anything else that's not, okay? The Ninth Amendment was set as the flood wall against such encroachment, unless there is specifically enumerated authority elsewhere in the Constitution to invade such a claim of right. Now, if such power does exist, okay, to allow the federal government to invade such a right, okay, even though that right's not listed in the Constitution, then the person's claim to that right must fall. Because if the government clearly has the power to encroach or even destroy that right, if they have the power to do it, well, they have the power to do it. And the way to change that would be an amendment, okay? So the Ninth Amendment was to serve to placate folks who did not want a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution because they thought that the addition of a Bill of Rights would increase the power of the government unnecessarily and beyond parameters, okay? The Ninth Amendment serves as a flood wall, telling the federal government that we may not invade rights that aren't listed here merely because these are listed here, okay? And therefore, because those 3 trillion other rights aren't listed here, we can invade them at will. The Ninth Amendment says, no, you can't, okay? Just because the Bill of Rights is here, listing specific things, doesn't mean that everything else that's not here is up for grabs, all right? So that's the Ninth Amendment. So like I said, the Ninth Amendment does not confer any substantive rights. You don't, like I said, say you have a Ninth Amendment right to play Xbox all day, or you don't have a Ninth Amendment right to eat corned beef for dinner every night, okay? You don't say it in the sense that I have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, or I have a Sixth Amendment right to counsel at trial, okay? Or I have a First Amendment right to practice whichever faith I choose, or none at all, okay? That's not how the Ninth Amendment works. It is not a source of substantive rights. It is nothing more than a guide on how to read the Constitution. However, in my humble opinion, I agree with certain other legal scholars that the Ninth Amendment does confer a presumption of liberty, and that it indeed does. The Ninth Amendment is saying that the people do indeed have other rights, okay, that aren't listed in the Bill of Rights, all right? And it would be impossible. The Constitution would be about 5 trillion pages long if we were to try to list all the inherent rights that the people have. So the Ninth Amendment directly protects those rights from being arbitrarily destroyed or infringed upon by government just because they're not listed in the Bill of Rights, unless there is some sort of governmental authority or enumerated power, rather, for them to invade those rights. Okay? No, the Ninth Amendment is not something that is often discussed and talked about, and the average person who reads it is not going to understand just what the heck it's even saying, okay, because the language is not crystal clear. It was written by people in the 18th century, folks. They talked and spoke quite differently than what we do, okay? So this has obviously led to a lot of misapplication of that amendment at times that it has been interpreted by courts, okay? So yes, the Ninth Amendment does add a presumption of liberty, okay? But it does not confer any substantive rights. In wrapping this up, I'll simply say once more that the purpose of the amendment is to shield other rights retained by the people that aren't listed in the Bill of Rights, protecting them from arbitrary governmental invasion just because those rights are not listed in the Bill of Rights, okay? Unless there is some sort of grant of authority from the government to invade such rights somehow, some way, okay? Government cannot invade non-enumerated rights based on the premise that they're not listed in the Bill of Rights, okay? That is what the Ninth Amendment specifically forbids, okay? Government may not invade non-enumerated rights, okay? Rights that aren't listed here in the Bill of Rights, okay? Just because they're not listed in the Bill of Rights, unless there is some sort of specific grant of authority found somewhere in the Constitution to invade or destroy those rights, okay? So that is the 9th Article of Amendment to the United States Constitution. If you have any questions or controversies, please leave them in the comments below. I want to thank you all very, very much for listening to this History Bite, okay? And I will talk to you at the next one. Enjoy your day and stay safe out there.